All right, we're live switching.
Live switching. Nice.
Live switching is good.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. You think you're just going to get so into what I'm saying that you're just going to forget every now and then?
Definitely. And I'm
or more likely once you start telling the story, then you just like leave it on Dan for 20 minutes straight.
Well, let me just tell you, when you see that my hands are free and you know that like I'm going to free up, but I'm going to have to cut back to you.
I have to get a little thing of rubber bands just to like shoot at you every now and then. You're like,
yeah,
damn, Dan's on like minute 5 of his cut.
Yeah.
Don't let the power get to you, man.
It's a lot of power, but it's also going to free us up for post-production. I don't know how much it's going to free us up, honestly.
Oh, man. I'm sorry. I just accidentally rolled off all the lows on your voice. Sorry. I'll try and remember to add that back in.
Did you really?
No.
Wow.
I'm just trying to balance that. If you're switched on you too long, then
no.
I'll start being like, oh, man, sorry, dude. I forgot to put the nice plug-in chain on your vocals. Oh.
Wouldn't do that to you. But I might forget what I'm doing. You know, it's going to be better to do it in post, but I do want to have the opportunity to try to live switch this. I'm not sure if it's going to go well, but it'll be fun.
Looking at our past podcasts, there's a lot of really cool stuff in there, but I imagine, not that we're going to cut out what we say and edit it too much, but there's a lot of like we're just walking around trying to figure out cameras and stuff, and maybe that's interesting to keep on there, but probably we'll want to chop it up. That is a crazy amount of work to watch the whole thing through, take notes, and then go back and chop it and edit it. And like you do this for a living, so you're about as fast as I would imagine you can get at it, but still a ton of work, especially with us trying to prep and release 8 podcasts or something in one go.
Exactly. But to the main camera, well, this is the wide camera we're on right now, and it's live. And we are here at the Outpost podcast. At least that's what I'm calling it for now, just because we're at the Outpost.
It's a great name.
And it looks nice when you type it. And so I was like, oh, that's kind of easy. But it might already be a name. I don't know. But we're talking to the main camera. Today, we're all set up. We got some good new gear. Well, it's old gear, but it's newly set up here. And the switcher is live. So I'm going to be cutting back and forth between Luke and I and the wide. And that's kind of the new action that's happening today. So I'm excited about that. It's going to be a learning curve for me to just be natural about it. But we've been pretty transparent about what it takes to make this podcast. So it's kind of a theme.
Yeah.
At least for us, because as we build it, we don't have much time to talk in between our busy schedules and now every week meeting up and having a podcast. So it's kind of fun to give each other the updates about what's happening. I don't know if anyone else is going to find that interesting, but it's interesting to me.
I think I would.
Yeah.
I think if I was watching a podcast and they were talking about their audio setups and all that, I'd be listening in and be like, how are they doing this? What's going on? Especially if it looks and sounds good.
I think ours looks pretty good and it sounds pretty great. So there's room for improvement. Obviously, we got some cool tube LED lights. We got nice lighting up here that you can't really see. I cut to the wide. It's not my favorite shot. I think I could improve the wide, but between you and I like the way it's lined up. I like the framing and the switcher's cool.
Well, and both of us being into music, I'm excited to have amp and guitars and at least have it handy. You know, we might not be having them in hand the whole time, but you know, between breaks and intros and outros, just pick up the guitar and do some stuff. I really like that idea. And I think the more we do it, maybe we won't keep all of them at the start, but the more comfortable we can be at like, all right, man, we've talked for 30 minutes. Let's mess around with the song real quick. I love that idea.
Me too. It's really exciting to me because the cool thing about these podcasts is we're not planning too much about what we're going to say to each other. So, you know, planning and preparing songs is going to feel better as far as like performing it, especially for you, someone who's out there playing really great live music and you're in the studio recording and you're making an effort to be professional about it. And I haven't played live in years and years and written a song in a long time. So for me, I'm just excited to play with you and to experiment. So I don't have too much of a boundary around like being exploratory and experimental, but
well, it's the same thing for me of I end up not ever doing open mics or anything that's more working stuff out in front of people, which is so important. It's like same as comedy. Like I really wish I had the time to go to open mics once a week and just hash things out and get comfortable with being on stage and not having a perfect song to present and just saying, "Hey guys, how you doing?" Talk and bullshit a bit, play a song and mess part of it up and not feel too bad about it. And eventually the idea is that you get so comfortable and so good at it that you can have a guitar in hand in any setting and just have a blast with people.
Yeah.
And have a blast with yourself.
When I started out playing music, it was like alone in isolation, just kind of like practicing and playing with the radio, like a little CD player I had, and just jamming with bands I liked and trying to learn some chords. I never really built up like a repertoire of covers like a lot of musicians have. I can tell you have a lot. And that's a great thing to fall back on in a moment where you're like, I don't know what to play of mine, you know?
To clarify that, I have a lot of covers that I have forgotten.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, how many songs can you know? I mean, you guys have like a 9-piece band and with all these jazzy rock alternative progressions that change and time signature changes. Like, how much room in your brain can you actually have for all the cover songs?
That's a good point. All the songs that Janaya writes are Latin, which is not my natural, realm to play in. And there's a lot of changes, a lot of stops. So yeah, I could say that one Music Road Co. song deletes about 10 other songs out of my brain.
Yeah. So that repertoire of Music Roco's library of songs is definitely a growing, vast, really cool tapestry of music.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't yet seen Music Roco live, there's a video link in the description that I edited.
Yeah. All right, Dan, remember to put one in there for me, bro.
I hope I tag myself in this video. So yeah, I'm definitely down to play with you. However you want to do it. If you want to come in after hours or before,
Mm-hmm.
and meet up or send me a song that you're thinking about playing, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you want to do it, but you think of yourself as my new guitar coach.
It takes a while, and I struggle with this too, but whenever I feel like I'm playing better, it's because I'm listening to what's going on with the song. And whenever I'm doing leads and stuff, especially when there is singing going on, like in the background, I really enjoy when I can remind myself to listen to the lyrics and not just the melody and the timing, but the words themselves, and try and play off of that with guitar. And that's kind of where I feel like I'm at now with my next step to just embellish around it. And I almost have to listen to the other players more than myself. Mm-hmm. And that's a really hard thing to actually do as a musician. There's so many awesome players out there, but you can just tell they're not listening.
Last week we talked about Victor Wooten's book, The Music Lesson. Did you pick that up yet?
No, I need to.
Oh, because it sounds like you're pulling talking points from exactly like the playbook of what he's saying. Is like, you got to listen, you got to be in the moment.
Yeah.
You're only like a half step away from the right note. There's no really wrong note because you can bend it into the right note if you have musicality and like rhythm,
mm-hmm.
and rhythm is kind of harmony too. So like you can play out of harmony but still be in rhythm and the song still makes sense. And there's a lot of freedom in his understanding of music that he goes
mm-hmm.
through in that book. And it's kind of like a pseudo spiritual self-help book, as well as his journey with like a mystical twist of like this ambiguous character in his life that teaches him this music lesson. It's almost like the spirit of music. I read it when I was in high school, so it's not super clear exactly the message that was in it, but I remember it had a strong impact, and it was one of the books I gave to my bassist and all my friends who were musicians. You got to read this book. It was so inspiring.
That sounds like the kind of book that you could read multiple times in your life and
Absolutely.
Get different messages from it. I've never read it, but I feel like I have heard, like I've almost read it just through conversations I've had with musicians, because it is probably so uniform and true to music. And of course, a lot of people have read it. Have you heard the band Wolfpack?
Yeah.
You like those guys?
Oh yeah.
They just released a new album. I haven't looked into it, but it sounds like it's live, and I was listening to that earlier today, driving around.
Nice.
It was fucking nasty. It was so
Cool.
awesome.
I haven't heard
And,
the new album.
Do you know the players in it? Do you know the guys well?
I'm not familiar with their names. You know how it is with Spotify and just like being fed the music you like because
Yeah.
the algorithm teaches you that about all the new music. It's not the same as it used to be with like making mixtapes on your own. And
Yeah.
I'm being definitely curated based on my interests, music like Wolfpack, but
Yeah.
not. It's not like I know the track names or the artists or what the artist's about like I used to with MTV or whatever back in the day.
What I've been enjoying about Wolfpack is it's just 4 of them, and it's kind of dry, but it's just so tight. Like each player is just such a monster, and they all play in different bands, and they're pretty versatile. But they've decided, hey, for this band, this is our thing. We're gonna be tight, funky. I think the drummer plays just a super simplified kit. I don't know if it's always the case. I need to ask my brother, but I think he just plays snare, hi-hat, kick, and
Nice.
just does the whole album with that.
It's really cool when a band can be kind of distilled down into a simplistic kit, like a nice compact jazz kit with like a 3-piece drum kit. Is that a thing? 3 pieces? No. It's like, hi-hat,
Yeah.
snare, and kick.
Yeah, I'm not a drummer, but I think that would be considered a 3-piece. Or maybe it's like the toms. No, I think hi-hat, kick, snare is a 3-piece.
Yeah. I mean, I've always appreciated what people can do with just polyrhythms and rim shots and just like getting really creative with a small amount, but also just like super vast, like throw all the bells and whistles and percussions and just stand up and start going around and
Like
making,
Rush's drummer has like 40 cymbals all
Yeah.
around, and
yeah. Or Billy Martin from Medeski Martin Wood, which I told you about last week.
Yeah.
He's just got like all of these different world instruments that he puts up on stage. He'll have like this kind of like not a blanket, but like it's like a rug almost in front of his drum kit with all of these percussion instruments from all around the world, and he'll just break out in this like freaky jazz percussion. I don't know what to call it, just like solo in a way.
I like the link you sent me. What was that guy's name?
John Schofield.
John Schofield. Yep.
Yeah.
I listened to the song, like his top song, and kept playing it for a while. It's really nice stuff. Just super tasteful.
Yeah.
It was more like exploratory than I was picturing.
Really?
Just like
Yeah.
not knowing you that well yet, and just kind of think like, what does Dan listen to? But
I mean-
I was like really appreciative that you're listening to that kind of stuff, because it's good.
It's kind of funny because that music is what I was raised up. You know how kids get fed music by their older siblings and that's
Yeah.
what they listen to? Like I have my sisters who listen to all the pop and popular rock and pop music and rap. And so I had all the radio hits.
Mm-hmm.
But then I had my brother who was 9 years older than me who was listening to jazz, and jam bands and rock and classic rock. And so he fed me all of my CDs when he was in college.
Yeah.
And he probably had the MP3 player. And then I had my CDs that I got from him. And it was big. I'm big on Radiohead. Like that's probably
Yeah.
one of my number one players
Yeah.
that I mess with. And Tom York, just anything he makes, I'm always like, you are a prophet. Whatever you say. You're
Man.
so weird and I resonate with it.
I've heard so many people like say that same thing about Tom. I've never I know Radiohead's like bigger songs, which I know are not the songs, like
Oh,
you gotta
yeah.
kind of do the deep dive on it.
Yeah. There's all like Creep and Karma Police, and
Probably not a good example of
those songs are great, but they're not like, you have to really get into like In Rainbows is the album that changed everything, because it wasn't just the music, it was the statement they were making. They were the first people to be like, pay whatever you want. Pay us $0 or pay us $10,000, whatever you want.
Yeah.
They were the first people to really do that in 2007. I remember I was in high school and I was like,
And if you're
got
good,
this for free.
if you're
you know?
good, it's gonna take that somewhere.
Yeah.
Versus being too hard and say, I need $10 per, or you're not allowed to listen to it.
Yeah. And so like, because they were once the top, Radiohead was top charts rock band back in the day, and with Creep and Karma Police and all those things that were hits. And so when they came back with this album in 2007, I think, it was just like this huge statement against the industry that was like, we're self-publishing and we're offering it for whatever people want to offer. And it
And
just
what
like
year
was
was
the
that?
internet. They were like, we're using the internet, and everybody was like, you can't do that,
Yeah.
And so of course I was like an alternative teenager who was like, yeah, fuck the system,
Well,
Radiohead.
And it was probably not too far from the Metallica thing with Napster, where they cranked down and just like locked down the whole industry from downloads, and I think they sued the crap out of Napster or something. I'm probably butchering the story, but I remember around that time not keeping up with it too much, but just kind of being a little bit of an anarchist by nature. Like things work. If things are good, they'll work themselves out in a way. And if you're too hard with it, I loved Metallica, and I still really love them and appreciate everything they did. But hearing that they locked down so much on their music to keep it strict, and I don't know, it killed my love for them. And I think that was probably kind of a mistake by them. Versus Radiohead on the other side, kind of saying, hey, here it is. Like, this is for the world, and if you like it, do what you can with it.
Yeah, and for a band to not just keep going with what works for them and playing the hits, but to like keep going with what music they want to bring through, and working with their instruments, whether it's their guitars or their synthesizers or new like Ableton DAWs, like always moving with the industry is what I've seen Radiohead do. And like, Tom York, I think, is known for he's got a great voice, and not everybody loves it. But as he gets older, you would think a rock star would be like losing his voice, and maybe he will someday, hopefully not. But like, like the way he sings, I think is part of like his instrumentation of what he wants as a longevity thing. Like he's just kind of quiet and soft, and he does raise his voice and get loud and like project, but he's not like screaming like rock like he used to back in the day.
Welcome to the jungle.
Yeah, or even like the older songs of Radiohead, he was really loud, and they still play some of their hits at their live shows. If you ever get to go to one, check it out. But like, as you get older, your vocal capacity is only gonna probably dwindle. I mean, you can only be so strong for so long. But
yeah, dude, singers have a crazy amount of pressure on them. And it's kind of fun in a way, and it gives them a chance to just be badasses and hone the craft. But I've lost my voice at gigs enough that, when you start losing your voice, like maybe there's like things you can do to really help it out. And maybe some of the guys, they're taking, steroids before some big arena tour. I don't know
really
what,
wow.
I don't really know the science behind like when you're losing your voice, how to repair it. When you have an arena show with 20,000 people and you've lost your voice, what do you do? Somehow, I mean, I know people cancel things, but a lot of these like famous singers where the band cannot perform without that one person showing off the top of their ability with their vocals. It's a crazy amount of pressure.
Yeah.
And I've thought about that because I love singing, and I have, I run all these fantasies about really becoming a talented singer. But I've lost my voice at enough gigs that I'm kind of not sure that that's really that great to be in that position.
Yeah. You got to keep it strong. It's like an exercise, it's the vocal cords are like a muscle, but they're not actually a muscle, are they? They're just, it's something that you can strengthen kind of like a muscle, but it's tissue.
Think the vocal cords themselves, I think, are supported by diaphragm and muscles in your mouth and everything.
Supported. Okay.
This is from my very uneducated understanding of it.
Yeah. Could you pull that up on the screen over there?
Yeah. How do vocal cords work?
That would be cool. A little screen. We could look stuff up.
Yeah. And then how do we do that? We wait a few seconds and we go, oh, yeah.
Thanks,
Great.
Jamie.
Oh, thanks.
We'll just say Jamie, just to, like, Jamie is the name of the producer.
We have our own Jamie.
Yeah, Elder Jamie. Damn it, that's not original.
With Music Road Co., Janiyah does a lot of the singing, but I do a lot of the backups, and I know a lot of the lyrics. So it's kind of nice having a band with multiple singers, because he definitely carries the majority of the weight for vocal work, but I could carry a decent amount of a show with my vocals if I need to. So if he's like,
absolutely.
I mean, every now and then we play a gig. We're all young and healthy, and we don't overdo it with drinking or partying. So we can really 98% of gigs we're good. But every now and then one of us is dying, and we're like, dude, I don't know if I can show up for this.
Need a lifeline.
Yeah. So if you have a band that has 3 vocalists and somebody can carry the weight and carry it through, it's pretty sweet.
3 vocalists.
Mm-hmm.
Look at you plugging Music Road Co. again. Hey guys, you got any shows you want to plug? Put them up on the screen right here. Come on, shows.
Yeah.
You got any?
We have a
we don't even know where we're gonna
manager
post
that
this.
keeps track of all of that stuff.
Oh, you must. You're so lucky.
See, my brain turned off. I didn't relate that as you asking me that. I thought you were asking Jamie to put the shows up. I thought.
Yeah, Jamie. No, yeah, Jamie is just future me. I'm just like, hey, put it up right here, because I'm switching over to this camera. I'm like, just put the dates right here based on whenever we post.
Yeah.
When we review this, I'll be like, okay, these are the dates of the next show.
You and I got to talk about this. Am I allowed to talk about my bands and stuff I'm doing?
You talk about whatever you want.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't want to overdo it. Like, oh great, yeah, Luke's in a band, great. It's just I love playing music, and that's where my brain goes a lot. So
I mean, I think where we're at right now, we're just figuring out what this podcast is about still.
Yeah.
And if you got shows coming up, I think when you watch a podcast with a comedian, for instance, which are very popular, and I watch a lot of.
Yep.
A lot of the beginnings of their shows start with plugs so that they can let their fans know, like, we got some shows coming up. Hey, and these are the shows, and they kind of get it out of the way first, and maybe they skip ahead. But like for me, I'm just like, if you want to plug some stuff, that's cool. I'm not plugging anything. Maybe eventually I'll plug the podcast as like, hey, if you want to record a podcast, you like what you see here, come on in, hit us up. Here's the information right here if you want to record a podcast in Floyd.
Honestly, way more than plugging stuff regularly and trying to add to it, I would just like to say, hey, Luke's one of the guys in the podcast. These are the things he does. Omnibuild, Music Road Co., Tattoo Shop, and just have a link, and that's it. Just kind of leave it there.
World's best dad.
Yeah. Shout out to my brother, Jake Thomas. He got me this hat.
Also, competitive best brother in the running.
That's Jake?
No, we're competing, you and I. I want to be the best brother, but you want to be the best brother. I got a brother too, but you got a brother, and he's being a better brother than my brother is being to me. So he's winning.
We should have a bro off.
A bro off.
we should get our brothers on either side here and let them duke it out for
just make them roast each other. And we'll be like, this is good content. Yeah. I'm thinking that maybe the live switching is going to be a little distracting for people, for viewers, because I keep, like, every time I'm talking, my hand's right here, which I don't think that part's distracting. Yeah. And maybe people will like to see the behind the scenes of, like, this is kind of what's probably happening in most podcasts. They're live switching it, I would assume. But somebody else is doing all of this stuff. Just like Luke is recording the audio. You can't see it. He moved it off the table now. Maybe I'll move this off the table. But
I got just 2 nice little cables. I still got this hard drive, but
yeah. So,
Well, and how's it feel for you?
I mean, it feels okay. It's fun. It's like something to do. I'm just thinking, like, because it's obvious what I'm doing on camera. I can see the switcher here on this wide shot, and if I go to my shot, it's right here. So anytime I'm on my shot, it's obvious that I'm cutting to the wide or cutting back to you.
Yeah.
So anytime I cut, it's obvious. I don't think that's a big deal. Yeah. I think it's going to be an interesting thing, and when I watch it back, I'll either love it or hate it. In the moment, I'm seeing that it's obvious.
That's the beauty.
I'm looking at the monitor, and it's just what it is.
What we're doing now, that's the beauty of it, is we get to watch a little bit of it and say, oh, hey, this is working. And oh yeah, maybe don't do this. I'm always going to be more audio related. I tweaked some of our preamps, and I did a little bit of a high pass filter. It was just a little too much like low end moving.
Too much man.
Noise. There's just a little too much man for the world, man.
Yeah, I think, for me, like you said, you would be interested in stuff like this, like the behind the scenes. So that's fair enough. We should make what we think is interesting. And at the very least, we'll enjoy the process of making these things. Mm-hmm. And we don't have to pander to our parents and what they want to see, Yeah. Well, so as much as
I know other people than just my parents.
I mean, it's funny. You think that this would be for all of your friends, right? And maybe it is. Mm-hmm. But if you were to actually have a successful podcast, most of the people that are going to watch it or listen to it, you've never met. There's so many more people out there that you'll never meet. And so that's the kind of cool thing about this like creative digital renaissance of just, we're going to put stuff out there. And if you resonate with it, you may find it. And if you do, you can subscribe, you can follow, you can join us. It'll continue and you can see how it develops. Eventually, we won't talk about all the gear, or maybe we will because companies will just keep sending us gear to test and we'll be like, this podcast mic is cool. Oh,
I think I would have to tie my wife down and force her to watch these podcasts for her to ever see it.
It was funny because Rita was giving me like comments of like, you know what you could talk about? Guys should have intentions. And I was like, yeah, we're probably just going to end up sitting there and talking, let it be organic, and it's going to be cool. And she's like, I don't know if that's going to work. I was like, don't worry, you're not going to listen to it anyway. You're not going to like it or listen to it. It's not going to be interesting.
It's not going to work for you. She already has to listen to you all day anyway.
Yeah, we both listen to podcasts that are literally just funny people talking.
Yeah.
So we're just making pretend like we're funny people talking. Mm-hmm. And it's fun to us. Now, nobody knows us or thinks we're funny except for the people in our lives. So yes, maybe this podcast is for friends and family who are like entertained by the idea of us putting ourselves out there and saying some silly stuff into a mic. And, maybe it's entertaining to 10 people. Maybe it's just funny for our friends to troll us. But ultimately, the goal would be for more people than just the people we know to see what we're doing and enjoy it, because there's way more people that, like, if you were to find a target audience as a business that you're marketing towards in digital marketing and social media marketing or advertising, you're not trying to advertise to your friends most of the time or your family. You're trying to find people that are actually interested, and there's so many people.
Yeah.
So maybe someone's interested, I think, because I know I would be.
Yeah.
And I'm not that unique. There's a lot of filmmakers out there that would be interested to know like what gear to use and what process. So the behind the scenes stuff is definitely useful for a certain niche of people, I think.
You and I have an interesting space that we're trying to navigate right now, which is we live in a small town. So what's the balance of us being considerate and careful and non-offensive to a whole small town versus something that, gets a little bit of grit and has a little bit of catch? The podcasts I listen to they seem to be splitting in two ways. One is just, the podcasts I enjoy are like the deep dives into people's views on life, and sometimes it's like horrible people and criminals, and sometimes it's politicians, sometimes it's scientists, sometimes it's comedians. And then the other side is I love like just horrible, vulgar, nasty comedy, and it gives me that release and that sense of like, oh well, they said something horrible and I can chuckle about it and release some tension in it. Not that I've got that much tension, but it's just like if somebody else is being dumber than you, it lets you relax in a way. And whoa, yeah, and like
did that work for you, audience? Do you feel better now? Because
oh yeah, now people can roam the streets and make that sound, and just a step back from you. Well, no, what?
Yeah, I mean,
what I'm getting
I understand. I think
what I'm getting at is we live in a small town. I'm trying to figure out my interests, my direction with a podcast. What is it? Am I going to kind of keep it family oriented and talking about things that are interesting and well articulated? Or am I going to start like joking around? Because I think when I get funny, I start pushing into a realm where nobody in this small town wants to hear what I'm saying.
Right.
And I'm not sure I want them to hear what I'm saying.
Well, I think that there's a place for the small town,
Yeah.
but the people that are going to watch this, there's only so many of us in this small town. And a lot of times I don't think the people in our lives are the target dude, I can't say it. I don't think the people in our lives are the target audience.
British accent, target audience.
Target audience. Yeah, no, I can't say what I'm saying, but what I mean is that, I don't know that many people here yet. I moved here almost 2 years ago, and I'm meeting more, and
Yeah.
I'm realizing that I know quite a bit of people, and my community is growing. But I'm happy to have people from the community in. But I think what it's going to create is we're going to drum up interest in the community for people to come in that want to be on the show with us or talk with us the way we're talking. So we're going to attract the few people that are in the same vein of like, we watch a lot of comedy podcasts and we like to talk shit a little, but we're good, genuine people that don't want to like really offend anyone or make anyone feel upset. We don't want to really brush up against any of the hot button topics without staying light. I really don't want to ruffle feathers or make people upset, but it's unlikely that I'm going to be focused on trying to appease this small town.
Right.
But I do business in this town and I want to remain, authentic and respectful to all my clients and anybody that I'm not going to slander anybody or say anything that's going to get me canceled the town or on the internet, hopefully, but the idea is that the people in the town that see this will be inspired at least enough to like recommend someone to us that we could bring on that would be in the same kind of energy field as, hey, we're going to be light. We're going to be real. We're going to kind of rib each other and just be as fun as possible, because otherwise it's not really that entertaining if you're not looking for the edge. Like if you're just staying well within the boundaries of conformity and what's acceptable, then it's just going to be bland, I think. Like you got to push the edge, whether it's the edge of what you think about reality and, humankind, or the edge of a joke that might be maybe offensive to someone who's super sensitive, but definitely not really in a deeply
Nothing
offensive
serious.
thing. Yeah, it's just like, be yourself and don't worry about what people in town are going to say, because it's not going to be for everybody.
Well, that's exactly the point. That was really well said. The point that I was trying to get to is, what is the edge to our podcast? Like, what boundaries are we trying to push? I'm probably not interested in getting into world events and politics and my opinion about it. There's so many people with opinions that are more educated and, maybe better or worse than mine. I'd rather talk about true human nature and stuff. But then I also like the podcasts that I love are just like hilarious, like goofy, weird stuff. And I'm not that goofy in real life, but in the right setting, in the right moments, I am.
Yeah.
Earlier today, I was helping my buddy move, and he had a friend who was out of town, or from out of town, came to help. I met him like a couple of years ago, like while we were on tour, not tour, but driving to New Jersey. Anyway, so we're hanging out with him and just kind of catching up. Hadn't seen him in a while, and he like told me about this video that his wife sent him, and he was like, "It's such a fucked up video." It was a dude in a kilt, caught on camera in an antique store, walking around wearing his kilt, grabbing shit off the shelf, sticking it in his ass, and putting it back on the shelf.
Okay.
And he would go, like they, after the fact, caught that he had gone through their whole store.
Oh my God.
And done this with multiple objects.
How did they find out? The cameras or the smell?
Well,
Yeah.
it's like, what a great like context to riff off of. I was like,
Right.
it's like, man, did everything in there start rusting really fast, and that's how they figured it out? You know what?
It
What
had
was
a
he
really distinct patina.
exactly. What was he sticking in his ass? Were there any like candles in there? Like, I was like, man, and my brain starts going like, man, if I would never do this, but if I was that guy, you know, how many things are you going to stick in your ass before you start deciding what's a better investment of your ass time per object? You're not going to stick like just a random, you know, like letter opener in your ass. Nobody's going to get that. You want to stick a spoon in your ass because that has the highest chance of
That's
actually
interesting. Yeah.
having an effect. Maybe the wick of a candle, stick that in your ass. So as soon as somebody buys it and lights it, it's like, bam. It's like,
Yeah.
what great content to like start building off of.
I don't know. Yeah, that's a good video. We're going to put it up right here, folks, okay?
Yeah.
On the Patreon.
There is some positive to that story, though. And apparently, since they caught him, all the other stores in the area started checking their cameras and found that he had hit
No way.
multiple
He
stores.
was a serial
serial assassin.
assassin. That's good. That's good.
You see, that wakes me up to like the funny side of me. And I feel like I can't share that a lot with, you know, if I'm telling this to my clients or something, they're going to,
Yeah.
they're like, no way.
But I mean, like, what business is a conversation with a friend on a podcast of a client to judge? Like, how is that somebody's place to judge you of your character at work? This is a place to unplug and be, you know, laugh and have a moment of just like relief from the hyper focus week. You're always on point.
Yeah.
Just making sure that everybody's good as a project manager and leading these super complex jobs to completion. And like, I don't think anybody's going to question our abilities as from clients. Like, I know that none of my clients are going to care.
Yeah.
And personally, I don't want to pretend for anyone.
Yeah.
So my whole thing is like, if any of my clients see this and they think I can't work with Dan, then let that be a filter. But I understand with you, you know, you don't want to do that with your job. You know, you don't want to be like off color to a point where someone's going to have a conversation. I could see that being different.
I think what you lose with putting yourself out there like that on a podcast, which is public, is context and nuance. I've had so many clients that we just are laughing and having the best time, and you do say some shit that's, you know, pushing the boundaries, but it's because you can feel in the moment that it makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah. As you can see, we've had a couple changes, you know. This is a work in progress. And it's fun. This is fun, dude.
I'm enjoying getting more comfortable with it. Talking with you, talking in this kind of setting. You had a really nice point of, if you and I think we're both like this, we're so locked in during the week to deliver, be focused, that something like this is really important to unwind, have some fun, kick it a bit. And I did have a thought that I was interested in exploring a bit on. It should be totally fine to cut loose on something like this, as long as you're also being a professional and delivering, and you can have both sides. And I think both sides are really important for people. But there is that nuance of, this is weird because it's public and it can be pulled at any point from this and plunked into different contexts and situations.
Any press is good press.
True.
I mean, I don't want to tempt fate to say like what's gonna happen, but I don't think you and I are the type of people to say things that are gonna be, at least in this generation of time, so offensive to get us canceled. And if that's the worry, then shit, you know, I'm sorry to my future self, but for canceling you.
Yeah.
But I think, like it's interesting because the framework of what's offensive now is different than what was offensive when we were kids or when our parents were our age or when they were kids. And I don't think that means that the needle should move or that there's any excuse to be offensive, like that I'm not offensive now, and then later when someone makes a stance that something we say is offensive because there's new rules. I think that there's like things change and culture changes, and then the parameters for which discussions can be had without too many feathers being ruffled.
Yeah.
They change. It changes with time. So, I think I'm pretty conscious of what I say.
And how do you transcend the current times? That's something I'm very interested in. Of if we're talking about, maybe we're joking about, funny things that are like stupid, but if we talk about ideas on how to be a good person and how to be happy and healthy, that transcends current events. And I'm the last person to start commenting on, what I think people should do or what not do. Mm-hmm. And I could really care less as long as the integrity and good person is there. So, yeah, I think you're right with that. We're not going to need to be too careful. I mean, even swearing, talking about gross stuff, like who's it going to chase away? Or who's it going to offend? There's less and less people that matters to. And that's actually really nice.
Yeah. I mean, as proper as anyone presents themselves, you can bet
they got some things in the closet.
Yeah, when they're stubbing their toe, they're saying "fuck" or something.
Yeah.
Like it's just a human nature at this point to curse. Even if you're like the devout religious person, you still have, you got to make amends at the end of the week with your creator. Like, I'm so sorry for swearing 100,000 times, but it's our culture we're in.
I feel like I could argue that the majority of people that try to be perfect and ultra clean and present themselves as an upstanding human being, I wish you could just like pull in the real answer and know, like, I think the majority of people that present themselves as that are not right. The people that
I'm offended by that.
Yeah.
Why are you acting so nice, man?
Yeah, Dan might come across as perfect and a handsome man and ultra smart and got everything figured out, but I know better. I've been hanging out with this dude.
Every time he comes over, I'm like,
I know better.
Losing stuff and it's not working, and the text on the screen is backwards, and he's like helping me read.
All right, we'll just save that. We won't get into the real stuff. We'll save that for podcast 98.
Podcast 98. I don't actually know what you're talking about right now, but it sounds hilarious.
No, dude, I'm really enjoying hanging out with you. I could tell. I think you can tell when people are bullshitting and kind of stuck in their own ego or having a facade. I think by the time you and I spend a few more podcasts talking, I think we're gonna know each other pretty well.
Yeah, especially if we decide to talk about anything with depth. Because we've touched on some things over the past. This is number 4, right? This is podcast
3.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is 3. Feels like 4 because we did some testing earlier in the week, but we didn't really set it up. We just kind of made sure things were going to work for today. But so 3. So on average, we've been spending probably an hour and a half talking or so. Or was it just an hour?
Like per podcast?
Yeah.
The first one, I don't know. The last one was an hour and 50 minutes.
That was pretty long. That was like a pretty decently long podcast, but this one's probably going to pan out to be similar just because.
I mean, we're at an hour 20.
We're at an hour and 20 already. Oh my God.
It's crazy how time passes. I think that shows that we're enjoying ourselves and having a good time.
Yeah. Well, we got everything set. We got this incredible table to sit at. We got these really nice chairs, and everything's so dialed
Dude, I'm loving it.
There's like nothing to distract us. Doing it in the evening really helps,
Yeah.
just kind of set the light in the mood. And it's just everything in here just feels fun.
Yeah.
It feels like a thing to do. And I think that it'll be fun to bring friends and people that want to talk. And, just if we want to bring more people in, I think the right people will come and we'll have good conversations that will develop new sorts of themes. And
You know what I really like about you and I starting this and getting comfortable figuring out the space is if you and I bring a third person in, if you and I really have it dialed in and we're chill and not faking it, not, showy or anything, but if you and I are actually comfortable here, that's going to make that other person feel that as well. And it's going to open them up so much faster.
Yeah.
They're not going to have to do 3 podcasts to like loosen up.
yeah, I mean, I don't even think we really had to do much to loosen up. Once we pressed play, we were like, oh, this is actually pretty cool. I'm not sure if we were being, I don't know if the audience cares yet because we haven't posted anything and there's no real data to show us if anything we're doing is working right now, just because we're building our bank and we're still building the podcast. So, but I do think that with time and with, studying what we're saying, and if we're actually trying to grow, we'll learn, when we talked about actual real human issues or psychology or entrepreneurship or music, like that's when people's interest peaked. And when it dipped was when Luke was talking about his mom again.
Yeah. I don't know. My brain works a certain way, and every time that watching the last one, when you and I would get into something a little, you would have some insight on something that's just a little deeper into it. That's when I would kind of like perk up, and it's
really?
It's actually been really cool hearing you say it in person, and then listening back to it again, because it's the same thing as like watching a movie. Like you pick up different things every time. So I'm picking up on your mannerisms and being in the room, and then when I listened back to it, I picked up another part of it that just helped lock in my understanding of what you were saying.
Right.
And it's actually just, it's such a cool thing.
Yeah. I mean, for us, our experience of this is maybe more dynamic than the viewer, unless the viewer knows us and then they're having their relationship with us, plus their, prejudice against what we're saying or with what we're saying. Be like, like our wives just being like, that's not funny. And your mom being like, you're making a lot of mouth noises, honey.
Yeah.
And I know I can just hear the voice of my brother or my mom. Like, of course, the voices that we hear are the people closest to us.
Yeah.
Like, and then ourselves are going to hold us back from, I mean, personally, I think I probably struggle with this more. I don't know you as well as I project to say, like, maybe you do struggle with your own self-judgment, but like I see you out in the world, like performing, singing, like those things to me are like heart open, like freedom of a person to not let your ego hold you back from letting loose and giving the world some vulnerability.
Yeah.
And I think, I've been in those states, but playing music with you before we started was like it was challenging for me. I was like, oh shit, like, am I going to sound good? I'm going to stay in tune. I made played a couple wrong notes, so it's a challenge for me. I think the biggest voice is in my head is always going to be mine, the critic.
Yeah.
And then I have the people close to me. That's the funny thing with a lot of people that don't ever want to post anything is that the people that they imagine are judging them are the close people to them that wouldn't probably hold it against them.
It would almost be nice to filter out everybody in your social real world,
right?
So that you can put yourself out there freely, and then you can ignore the comments because they are really, people that you would love to share ideas with and put yourself out there. But if there's somebody with some harsh opinion about you that's just trying to tear you down, you can ignore that when it's somebody that doesn't have a real part of your life. When it's your best friend that says some heavy shit about you and your personality,
yeah,
it can be a mind fuck. You got to figure out.
Even if it's a slight thing where they're just like, yeah, I don't, why are you talking about Music Road Co? Like, shouldn't you talk about something else? Or some basic comment that
Right.
like feels, it just tilts everything to a personal level instead of it
Yeah.
just being like an experimental, we're putting stuff out there and completely random people are appreciating it.
Yeah.
And it feels so much more different when your mom comments on a post versus when someone you never met with like a username 997255165 is like, wow, thanks for that. I really like you now. And you're like, oh, user 59677. Oh.
Yeah.
But like, mom, I get it. Yeah, you freaking see my videos. I love you, but please, like, can someone else please say something? Like, it's a funny dilemma, the posting thing. It's a very deep psychological issue that a lot of people have, that people are mostly, I think, not everybody is, but like when you're doing something like this, especially if you're paying someone to create content for you, you have an expectation that it's going to have a return, whether it's viewership or business or positive return on your investment. So
Yeah.
like with us, at least it's just like fun. And really, like if our moms are the only people that are commenting at first, it's kind of embarrassing. But it's just like if there's gonna be some kind of growth. And I'm happy with whatever it looks like now, just because like you said, it's fun getting to know you more.
Yeah.
It's fun being able to listen back to it and have this personal reflection of like, oh wow, I said something that actually in the moment I thought I was idiotic, but I actually made a little more sense than I thought I did. And maybe I should have been more confident. And I think there's a reflective, it's almost like note taking and then retroactively, learning from the mistakes that we're going to inevitably make just running our mouths for 2 hours.
I imagine you're doing the same thing that I do when I watch this, which is not
Pump
like,
and iron.
see what's going on. Look at my arm. I gotta work this out more. When I watch this, I try and find a nice balance of observing myself and you and the situation, the vibe, the energy,
Right.
in a educational way, but not too critical where I'm beating myself up over like, oh my God, that's how I talk. I said like 5 times in a row. But
Yeah.
it's a trip watching yourself talk, because you in your own head, no matter what, sound different than you do into a microphone and listening to it. So something that I've picked up with myself, with the way my mouth movement is, the way tone of my voice is, the energy in my voice, my mannerisms. I'm not hyper analyzing it, but I can listen to it and say, noted. I kind of stumble a bit here, or I take my time and I kind of slow down here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm actually really enjoying hearing that, because I think that I present myself in a certain way to people in my own head, and it doesn't quite meet with reality. So hearing yourself on camera for enough time, it kind of gives you a chance to refine it a bit. It sounds weird.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not editing my personality, but it's the same thing with listening to you play music live.
Yeah.
It's so hard to do, because you listen to yourself and you're like, God, we fucked that part up. Oh man, like my tempo is horrible. I'm singing out of key. The drummer's like doing this, the bass player's doing this. We missed this part.
Yeah.
You can tear yourself up over that stuff to the point where you're like, fuck music, I'm done. I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Or the other side of it, which is where the benefit is you watch it with no ego and you say, yeah, I can do better. I can practice that part. I can work on my tempo. I can make sure I drink enough water before I sing so I can perform better. And that makes the difference. And then all of a sudden you're like improving and getting to a level of enhancing yourself.
Yeah. You can't have self-analysis to the point of it being critical to your own progress. You can't take your criticism and let it disable you,
Yeah.
because the whole point of practicing is to learn where you can grow and to be balanced in the growth, because you can't just, if you're drilling yourself at soloing over and over and over again, you're going to hit a wall eventually and feel like you're shit at it. But really, the next time you come back to it, you'll be almost a little bit more fluent because you'll have run the drills, you've done the scales, your mechanics are better and your muscle memory's there. But like in a moment, it's easy to be critical and say like, you suck at soloing because you messed up 10 times right there when we were running drills. Or in this case, we're kind of running drills of like long form conversation and seeing, are we coherent? Do we make good points? Is this entertaining to just us and the friends and family that we're sharing it before we post publicly? And then like at the end of the day, like, do we want to come back and go again? And the answer to me is yes to most of those things. And I think my biggest question is, am I saying anything that anyone's going to care about? Or am I just obsessed with myself?
Just doing therapy.
Just like, yeah, this is my therapy and it's for no one else except for me and Luke. And we're like having a good time, like working out some stuff. And the fact that we have to have these lights and cameras and the action of the whole setup. It's like this modern day therapy session of like, it's like our own little men's group.
Right?
And we're just like, yep, we're just going to talk for a while.
I mean, when I listen to Lex Friedman's podcast, I got to ask myself, is this anything other than a men's therapy group? Like I'm having conversation with people that are smarter than me and more insightful in that area because I need that. And, it'd be nice to do that in person, but having it in your ears, it feels like you're having a conversation with those people.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe everything we're talking about is uninteresting, or people have heard it and it's like we think we're awesome, and then it turns out it's the most generic shit you've ever heard. But I don't know. If it means something to us, it's gonna mean something to some other people listening as well. Yeah. Unless it's too edited and too too formulaic, and we have bullet notes like, hey, we're going to inspire our audience by talking about this.
I don't think that's going to be our agenda.
There's on this line here, Luke's going to talk about his band a 17th time in the single podcast. Yep, check, did that one.
People are going to make like a drinking game out of it. They'll be like, oh, is Luke gonna, how many times is he going to mention music road code?
I will give both of us credit though. We don't say like too much.
Really?
I've caught myself in a couple strings of saying like too much, but I was like, I had this little thing in my brain of, I just hope we're not going to end up saying like 2,472 times in this podcast, because that drives me bonkers.
Yeah. I do my best to stay away from filler words. As a video editor, I'm very conscious of them. Yeah. I've been letting loose here, having a beer or drink and trying to be chill, and this is like after hours for me, so I'm a little sloppy.
I'm bringing a notepad next time. I'm going to put and I'm just going to do a tick every time and just track it for you.
Yeah. No, I definitely say and I think especially the last episode I was feeling more exhausted, so definitely slipped some ums. But I think that for me, I've been really conscious of filler words for so many years because I edit them out of videos for people. Yep. I take their raw footage of an interview or their talking heads video that they're presenting to their clients, and I make it sound super efficient and dialed, and usually that means taking out spaces, filler words, and repetitions. So with this, watching it back and seeing our natural development of the conversation leading into making some points, having some laughs, and discovering what the podcast is going to be about organically, and then having an ending. And it's not abrupt. It feels right. We always end when it's time to end, but there's a filler word right there because like you can't, and there's another one, but how can you track it when you're trying to finish a thought? It's very natural to fill that space with the filler words because,
well, your brain's trying to catch up with your mouth.
And I think it's also trying to let the other person know, like, I got this. Don't.
Yeah. Still thinking.
No. Like, wait, I'm making noise.
Yeah.
I've got the airtime. Like I think there's a lot of that in filler words when it comes to conversation. For me, like I notice I want to keep talking. So wait.
You know what I heard I do, which again, this is not a criticism. I don't beat myself up over it, but it's a learning thing. Sometimes if I start going too far with what I'm saying and I start running out of what I'm trying to say, I end it with so.
Yeah.
And that's so awkward. And I realize I do that a lot with clients, especially while I'm trying to be professional and keep the conversation going and talking about their project and engaging. Sometimes my brain just turns off as I'm trying to do it. And then I end with, so, and it's just so awkward.
Yeah, a lot of people start with so too.
Yep.
That's the thing. As an editor, I today just edited out a lot of so's because it's like you think you have to continue the phrase with so, but really it's the next word after so. Usually that is the first word of the statement you're making.
Right.
And I think humans or people, we just have like this general lack of confidence in what we're doing, you know? And it's masked by the professionalism and the ability to do really great work. But underneath that, I think you could probably tell a lot about somebody by how they speak and how they present themselves. And words like, and filler words like so and and that is, it's all just kind of a tick of people trying to keep up with the fast-paced expectation of professionalism, punctuality,
quickness in their thinking. Yeah.
Sharp, your high IQ, alpha or whatever efficient entrepreneur, whatever the status quo is of what we're trying to all kind of present as professionals. Because we're as professional as we all are, we're all just telling each other to agree with what we're saying we are. And
trust me, I know what I'm talking about.
yeah. And I think that's great because it helps validate each other's dreams. Like, people who believe in me to make their videos helps me do what I want, which is to make cool videos. And so it's good to be validated, but without that outward acceptance of what I'm putting out, I'm just an insecure person trying to be somebody. Or just hoping that the world will accept what I want to put out there. I want to be a filmmaker. I want to be somebody who helps people put out the content and the creation virtually that they're hoping for. And I've been given the trust by a lot of people to do that. But before the trust was given, it was all them taking a chance, it felt like. But now with like a positive track record, you start to feel like your ego starts to tell you like, no, you are this person. And then eventually maybe the filler words just go away, man. You're just like,
the more you get aligned with the way you want to present yourself and figuring it out, it lets you cut some of those words out. This is the cool thing I'm learning about you and your personality is you have a really good understanding of how people's brains work because you get, as an editor, you're seeing all the pauses and you're actually trying to figure out how to deal with it. Is this okay? Is this natural? Should I cut it out? Is this too slow? Is this too fast? So it's cool to see, or at least talk with you about all those filler words and how people present themselves.
Yeah, man. I think that editors probably, if any editors like me, I think it slightly develops kind of an OCD tendency, maybe an impatience in some sense if people are being really wordy. And it translates like if
shots fired, Luke. Fired right at Luke.
Yeah, you got a nice vocabulary, but you're not saying it.
All right, it took a while for you to finally start getting there.
But you're not saying anything. Say one thing once. Why say it again?
I definitely learned through this podcast that I have the tendency to ramble at times.
That's what it's all about. We should be rambling. We should let it be organic because I think that's the therapy. Like you said, Lex Friedman's a great example of a podcast that I think, I don't know what the demographic is, but I have a feeling it's highly male and probably our age to mid 50s. It's like 30 to 55 is probably the demographic, leaning heavily male, I would guess, just because that's like it resonates with, and I could be wrong, and I don't want to be generalizing what I think as fact, but I would imagine it is, and maybe we could look that up to see later, and we'll put it right here. Yeah, the facts.
Statistics.
I might be wrong, but so you were mentioning how Lex Friedman's conversations, among other, serious podcasts. We've got the comedy podcasts that are silly. They're more like recreational, fun, leisure time, enjoyable, dumb comedy to just let yourself relax and listen to funny things.
Mm-hmm.
But then you got like the Lex Friedmans, the Andrew Hubermans, some case Joe Rogans, and then there's all sorts of other ones that are much deeper and curated, whether they're news or intellectual or philosophical. I'm only named a few, but like I think the reason that they're so helpful is because it presents a conversation being held, sometimes a debate being made, arguments being fleshed out, and then like cohesion and compassion ultimately developing. There's not usually an abrasive, it's not like a news debate or like a political debate. It's always like, let's try to find a middle ground and have an interesting conversation. That's what I like about Lex Friedman. He's willing to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
No matter their background or what they believe in, just to see like why humanity is the way it is. And it's all about compassion and understanding. And I think that is like super healing for, not just humanity, but maybe whatever demographic is attracted to it, which my theory is a lot of males.
Yeah.
And so I think the reason you and I are really enjoying this is because it's that in real time. It's not as deep or as profound as maybe the guests he's having, some of the greatest thinkers and the creators and entrepreneurs of our time, and world leaders even. So like you and I, we hadn't had a guest, and the first few guests are going to be locals, and they're going to be brilliant humans, but they're not going to have like maybe the huge credentials of some of the biggest podcasts in the world. But I think what's happening here is super therapeutic for you and I because we're talking and we're getting to know each other. And I think in our society, that's not as common for people as it maybe it used to be. And maybe that's why it's so attractive. I have theories about podcasts and why, we joked in our first episode, just another white boy podcast, and I don't know if that's a generalization or if it's a true statement. Like there are a lot of white guys podcasting, and it's kind of a funny meme. My girlfriend was making fun of me, and I think it's hilarious.
You sent me that video like, oh no, there's new guys like podcasting, and there was like podcast police that had to take them down.
Exactly. Like that's what we're becoming, because I think the joke is on us.
Yeah.
Because like really nobody cares, but it's fun, and we can hear ourselves, and we got it all set up, and eventually, this is episode 3, and by the time we start posting, we're gonna have a few more in the can. And
something that gives me a lot of faith that not even that this is gonna like blow up and be a huge podcast, but this is worth our time, is thinking of taking reels from this. Listening back to the previous 2 podcasts, there's a lot of fillers, there's a lot of, clunkiness in it, but there's also some gems that both of us have said. There's some things that when you've gone on a tangent, I listen to it and I'm like, dude, that's a great idea within itself.
cool.
And it's nice to have the full context of the full-length podcast, but it also could just be a 60-second clip that is worth seeing. It's not bullshit. It's not like crap. It's like if I was scrolling through Instagram and something like that would pop up, I feel pretty strongly that it would grab my attention.
Yeah, well, that's good, because I think that's what that's what initially inspired me to want to add this kind of podcast realm to my production studio, of like building this platform for others. Initially, I didn't think, like I've said before, that this was going to be something I wanted to do. I'm too busy. I don't want to put myself out there. There's 100 reasons what I could come up with why I don't want to start a podcast. But then we started, and it's fun, And the whole thing that it's like, it's lived experience of what we're doing, that the intention came from the idea of like, oh, we'll create this and we'll create some packages and we'll sell it, because exactly what you're saying, it's huge. Like this long form, really raw cut edit of us talking will be interesting to some people, and the shorter things will be able to experiment, have more edits that will make them kind of punchier and more attractive on social media. But that was kind of the initial thing I thought it would be, is like, it's such a selling point of like, hey, we'll record you for an hour talking about your expertise, and you can have your own guests, and or it can just be them, one person or two people or whoever it is, and then we'll pull the shorts from it so you get your whole thing, and then for the upsell package you can have 10 shorts to promote it. And then there's also the 5-minute clips that go on YouTube, that you see for like the bigger points that have to breathe a little bit, but you don't have to commit to the whole podcast unless you become a fan. And the way you become a fan is by seeing the shorts and then eventually being like, wait, is that a podcast? Like, this is pretty obvious it's a podcast. We got these podcast mics and we keep saying podcast, and we're like trying to be the podcast DIY podcast.
Two white guys.
Just two white guys.
With a podcast mic in front of their face.
Yeah. It's a podcast. Pretty obvious. But
well, I would have to say there's two things that have drawn me into whatever shows. Like I haven't watched TV. I think I told you this either on mic or off mic. I haven't watched TV in weeks now. It's kind of crazy.
Nice.
As in TV, as in a produced TV show or a movie. Because I've been, on YouTube just checking out a podcast and watching 15 minutes of it and then running out of time and doing something else and come back to it. And back to my first thought, everything that's kind of grabbed my attention has come from a short snippet that was hilarious.
Yeah.
And it made me feel like, hey, I got to watch the rest of that.
Yeah.
And that's one of them. And the other one is just collaborations. And that's where, even in a small town, I really love collaborations of
totally
pulling somebody in from OmniBuild, pulling somebody from the tattoo shop, any local businesses that have cool people working in there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super excited about the idea of interviewing local business owners.
Yeah.
I'm, as somebody who has my own business, I'm actually interested in advice from people who have their own businesses, or just like conversations with other entrepreneurs to see what's going on. And so that's something that I'm really interested in, is bringing other people in that have their own things going on that maybe they would be open to talking about, to kind of divulge some insider scoops to, the inside of making a tattoo company succeed in a small town, and the steps, the pain points and the growth challenges, and, maybe what stands out about that company. Those things are super interesting to me. Yeah. And I think a lot of people, the cool thing about like the audience and retention is like, there's always going to be people interested in certain things. So the challenge of developing on the spot a podcast, what is it going to be about? Okay. It's really broad right now. So like we're telling the universe, the algorithm, the audience, like we don't really know. And, so that's not a great premise for subscription and for like retention. It's like, okay, these guys are just two white guys podcasting again. Cool. But we're probably going to develop a local sort of awareness that will boost getting some more locals in, which will then organic grassroots kind of compile into a small audience that's local, which is why it's good to kind of think about how we want to present ourselves locally.
Yep.
Because it is a small town, and there are people that are going to just see it and they're going to be like, those are the guys.
Yeah.
And we're going to be like, who are you? because the small town will know. I mean, it's not that hard to pick people out of this little barrel of Floyd. So, I mean, once you know somebody, you start to meet everybody, and I have no problem with that. And I think that that's a good baseline for any growth, whether it's a business or an online venture. But ultimately, like, while we're doing these first test runs, hopefully we align a vision for our own podcast that there is some kind of thread that ties it together.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe it's just you and I. Like that's the luck that people who we watch have. They already have that base. They have a fan base. So we're used to watching people, and we watch them because we've all accepted that we want to listen to those people, like the comedians that have a fan base. We're just two guys that are kind of funny in our normal life, but we're not like, we don't have fans. So us being funny doesn't really matter to anybody, I think.
Yeah.
So I have my own reality that's grappling with like the fantasy of like, this is fun. Maybe people will care. And there's, in my experience with filmmaking and content creation, like there is a real need to have people give you feedback that's positive, or else us just having conversations will eventually maybe be like not futile, but like more challenging because we're just doing it for ourselves and our moms to tell us that we're making too many mouth noises or something. Like, so the hope is that we find some kind of, something real to maybe align the vision so that we can kind of bring something in, or people that are aligned with certain things.
I think that bringing our first guest, our second guest, and our third guest, that's going to make it's really going to take 10 steps up in what our direction is. Because I think that, I think we're figuring out the two of us and kind of how that flow is and everything. As soon as you bring somebody else in, what is that? Is that somebody you're just bullshitting around with and having fun? Or is this somebody that you're bringing in to ask questions about and get their opinions on and everything?
Yeah.
And I was wondering, do you want to do another song? Sure. I think the day of moving and running around and all that's starting to catch up.
Oh yeah, getting a little
faded. Lately, I've been wondering what's been going on. I've been here before, but I don't remember when. Lately, I've been wondering what's been going on. I've been here before, but I don't remember when. Every time we get to where we're entering, I feel my beliefs and hopes surrendering. This song's in A minor. Like the enemies that we are battling, I feel my beliefs and hopes surrendering. Every time we get to where we're entering, cause I know I'll be coming home soon. Yes, I know I'll be coming home soon. Like the enemies that we are battling, I feel my beliefs and hopes surrendering. Every time we get to where we're entering, I feel my beliefs and hopes surrendering. Cause I know I'll be coming home soon. Yes, I know I'll be coming home soon. Yes, I know that I'll be coming home soon with a soldier's eyes, with a soldier's eyes, with a soldier's eyes, with a soldier's eyes. Nice. Very good.
Nice, dude.
Nice.
Nice. Cue video of noise. Noise. Yep.
I like this guitar, man.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, that's good.
I love Taylor.
Oh man, zoom in on my fingers. I don't know if you can.
I don't think we can.
Come on, fingertips. Wait, I thought you were doing like 16K over here or something.
We're going 1080. 1080 for the pod.
My little electric guitar finger calluses are not up for the task. That's one of those songs. Like the older I'm getting, I'm starting to be like, I can't just like do the one chord thing. Like my hand starts freaking out.
Yeah, you're pretty old.
Getting
Pretty
there, dude.
freaking old.
I'm getting there.
Pretty disgusting.
Basically 80.
Yep. You know, you can't be hot forever. So
Nope.
might as well just accept that you're basic.
And cut. And on that.
Thank you. Have a nice night.
You have a nice night.
So we've talked about music. We played a little music. We've talked about the podcast and where we're at with some of the tech. And
The most important question of the night is, what do you think of your new boom arm?
yeah, this is actually, I was skeptical at first and it feels pretty sturdy. What I like about it is no logo, it's just black. It looks good on camera. And there actually is the metal. I thought it was just plastic when I first saw it, but that's just the sheathing. It's just kind of like a plastic cover.
Cable management.
And it keeps the cable under. And it feels pretty good. I think right here it's like maybe not tight enough.
I'm finding I'm tightening it quite a bit all the time.
Yeah. I think there's a reason why it's affordable. But for now, if we're being careful, and we're not like, I think probably with the things that are affordable, every adjustment might wear out the mechanic of like how well it holds. And that's when eventually we'll be like, yeah, we got to spend the $500 on the really good ones.
Yep.
Because these will wear down the more we use them.
Nah, when you and I buy the new ones, these ones can be the guest ones, for the dirty guests.
Yeah. So no, I'm loving it though. And I appreciate you getting down on the investment of the studio, adding some production value.
And these are $75 a pop. So they're
Yeah.
totally not bad. And they can clip to the table in a sturdy way. And I feel like it's not going to like mar it up or scratch the table or anything.
And it got the nice little headphone hanger there, which is clean.
Dude, we got to deck this table out some more and start putting some like, I don't know, are you a clean podcast table kind of guy? Or are you going to?
I mean, like we're
going to have UFOs and skulls over it, all over it soon.
I mean, right now it's just, we got an incense I had earlier going. Probably would have cleaned that up, but I left it there.
You're an incense kind of guy. I like it. Honestly,
dude, I don't know which food truck it is, but somebody's making a fucking chili or something every day here. And I don't know if it's the stink. Like, what does a stink bug smell like? I don't know. But when I walk in here, it smells like food. And it's not like the food I would eat. It smells like a microwave dinner or something. And
have you ever had cilantro? Are you a cilantro fan?
I love cilantro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, imagine cilantro that is 4 times stronger and just has like a It's like cilantro, but it's sat out in the sun, like in a little bowl of water in the sun for
Yeah.
3 weeks.
Okay.
That's stink bug.
Okay, rotting cilantro in the sun.
You know how
I
I'm
don't know
very
if that's what
intimate
it is.
with that smell and the taste of it.
Uh-huh.
One day I had like a beef stew in a glass container, and I was like all about it. This was great. And I took it to work one day, popped that bitch in the microwave, got it nice and warm, just like, ugh. I'm eating it, and I'm like, yeah, I made this. I don't remember adding cilantro. I'm hungry though. I think it was like wintertime on a job site.
Oh, man.
And I get halfway through it, and just the further I get, I'm like, I don't know about what's going on here. And then I find a stink bug that just got fucking microwaved and souped up.
Oh,
somehow
souped up.
it must have flown in as I was like putting it in the container.
Yeah, kamikaze stink
It was
bug.
the worst thing ever. Anyway, tangent. Stink bugs suck. I hate
Stink
those
bugs
fuckers.
smell like cilantro sitting out in the sun
in a bowl for
in a
3
bowl
3
for
weeks.
3 weeks. Yeah, I mean, it probably isn't that. I think it might be actual food. Sometimes I'm like, is it whatever? Yeah, I burn incense because there's actually a smell
Mhm.
that I come into the studio and I'm like, what is that? And I don't like it. So yeah, I got this nice Mexican copal
Hey,
incense stick. It's
good on you. I've never
a good
walked
smell.
in here and been like, hey, it smells like balls or chili. So that's a
Yeah.
good job, man.
I walk in here and I'm like, is somebody cooking or something? Like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Something's happening.
Yeah.
But I try to keep to myself, so I burn some incense and wash it away.
Well, we're hitting a little over 2 hours.
Jeez.
So what do you want to plug?
I want to plug the studio and the fact that we've got this incredible podcast studio here. I think that we could, I want to plug, drop a name in the comments. I don't know. Shit. I was going to say, like, it'd be cool to bring some interest into the podcast if you're a local in the Southwest Virginia area or you're passing through. We'll have some contact link below in the description where you can reach out and let us know what you do, what your interests are,
Mm-hmm.
what you could bring to the table, literally the Bill St. Pierre table. We got some extra seats. We got extra mics. We got cameras that we can put on you, and we'd like to talk to you. So I think that would be a good, it's not really a plug, but it's kind of a statement, a closing statement that, these are the beginning phases of a new podcast and just two guys trying to have a good time on a weekend night.
Plug for the Outpost podcast.
The Outpost podcast. Yeah, it seems like the Outpost podcast. When I typed that in,
It looks great. It looks beautiful.
It's really symmetrical.
Yeah.
And it's like got the same lettering. So there's like a lot of things I liked about it.
Outpost podcast.
It has like a rhythm. And it's just what it is too. Like this is the Outpost.
Yeah.
And it is a podcast.
Luke and Dan noodles out. I mean, what do you do with that? You just like put noodles all in the background or something? It's not going to look good.
I feel like we could definitely prompt AI ChatGPT art to make a noodles out. Oh, here you go, busting out another guitar. You brought another surprise
another
guitar.
gift.
This
I got
is
another
a surprise.
What do you think of this one? It's
Ooh,
a
I
little
love
dusty,
Ibanez.
but it's dusty because it's been loved for so
I
long.
love Ibanez.
Feel how heavy this one is.
Oh yeah.
That's another mahogany one. Don't even check out the strings. We gotta have a string changing session over here. But
I love
that's picture me at 16,
Yeah.
thinking I'm so cool with my like baggy cargo pants and 125 pounds playing that thing. I'm famous on YouTube, or at least I was back in 2007.
I've
That's the
heard, yeah.
guitar I was playing in there.
Wow.
I have multiple videos over 80, 90. I
Wow.
have one video, like 110,000
Yeah.
views, playing that guitar and sounding horrible. And I just
it's cool.
I was like, oh, there's this new YouTube thing. I'm going to upload a video. And I had no idea that it was getting that kind of view. So it's kind of
Yeah.
ridiculous. But anyway,
it's nice. It definitely we got some strings here. We can string it up, clean it up,
Yeah, but I
plug
felt
it in.
like, you know, just let me know if it's too many guitars. But that's a
Well, we're currently at a place where if you bring any more, we're gonna have to bring some mounts or stands because this is literally the last place we can hang one
yeah.
right now. I don't have room for more.
Well, let's
But if
off
you wanna
mic
bring more,
look
bring some.
around at if we want to hang more guitars up and make
Yeah.
it a cool vibe, or if there's a
I
certain
like it.
amount of guitars that are enough, then we'll stick with that.
Okay.
I've got an acoustic nylon string from my
Mhm.
grandfather
Nice.
that I would also love to keep around here, just because it's like, oh, it sounds so good.
Yeah, I mean, but you gotta have one at home, right? How many do you have at home?
I don't know. This might, for the next foreseeable future, this might be my happy music space for a bit.
Yeah, I mean, with a kid and another one on the way, and you're building your house, you're kind of in transition. So
Yeah.
having a safe place for your music is definitely.
I'm going to keep my Taylor at home.
Mhm.
But the majority of what that gets used for now is to play the backing chords for the ABC song, the backing chords for Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
That's adorable.
My daughter's favorite song right now.
Do you want to end the show playing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer?
Only if you sing it. My daughter would love that. She would be our
fan
second biggest fan on
Yeah.
my side.
Nice. Yeah. Well, I appreciate that you're sharing this with your people, or at least some people. I have to still kind of bring myself to do that. I think it was mostly because I haven't shared it, not because I don't like what we're doing, but because as an editor, they're not done editing.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I need to take some chunks out. There's dead space. There's moments where it's obviously not done.
Yeah.
And so it's not ready to share, in my opinion. I'm happy for you to share it with people, privately.
Well, I'm
and
being
stuff.
very clear. Like, this link does not go out to public. This is tight circle right here. When you get to editing it, I hope I can help out as much as I can with that. You can just set it on the floor. It's been through worse than that. I want to make sure I help you with editing and, whatever it is, whether it's me giving you notes, whether it's me.
Yep.
I mean, you
could just deposit like $1,000 in my bank account every week if you want.
Yeah, except for that. how's that chair feel?
The chair is nice. No, yeah. You could just deposit a Hog Capisco every once in a while in the studio. No, I think that, like, especially for you and I, we'll see how this feels.
Yeah.
And I want to be like, have an editor mindset about it. So when you see this and you see me switching and you watch my eye contact, like, if it's distracting to you and you're like, this is too much, you shouldn't be live switching,
Right.
then we won't do that next time. And we'll just record ISOs, and then we'll have to do the post-production, which is
Well, the great
not
thing
that big
is
deal.
the last one you ran it through an automatic switcher,
Mm-hmm.
and then this one you're manually switching. Bam, great example of the two. And
Yeah.
see what works.
Yeah, and I do think that the auto cut AI augmented software will improve.
Mhm.
In time, everything's just going to be more optimized for software. And so me having to go back and forth between these angles and the cameras and cutting, I think ultimately it'll help me stay more engaged with the conversation, and I won't make as many mistakes as I probably did today.
Right.
Sometimes I can press a button twice immediately really fast, and there'll be like a jittery cut.
Right.
And you'll see that on Joe Rogan. You'll see those types of cuts. You'll see those all over the internet.
Mhm.
And as an editor, I noticed that, and I'm like, oh, okay. So it's okay.
They're a human being.
You can be a human being. You can have a rough and ready presentation.
Yeah.
As long as the content is good and the quality of what is being recorded is high quality audio and, high definition video, and what we're talking about makes some kind of sense and outreaches to a certain demographic that is predictable to the internet. Like, if we're talking about a broad scope of things for a long time, being people that aren't public figures or have any sort of like real fan base, it might be harder for us to reach people if we don't like rein it in and have like a real they tell you to have a niche or a niche. Like you need to have like a focus. And I don't want to do that because I feel so claustrophobic creatively when I'm forced to be some specific thing. And so like I'm totally more about just experimenting and going like all out on having fun and not putting too much pressure on what we're trying to be yet. And I do think, like I said before, we're going to figure that out as we go. And like you said, bringing people in is going to add a whole new element to the conversation.
Man, and if we're enjoying the process, I think I have this strong feeling that's more important than on episode 3 trying to figure out exactly what our nuance is. Because, it could start to squash the fun part of it, the parts that make us excited about it. And then it becomes another work thing. I think if we're enjoying it and just dig into the parts that we enjoy the most and build those, I think that's when it turns into something that's worth watching.
Nice. Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I'm having fun and I'm looking forward to improving a little bit every time. Yep. I think this episode's a little better. We got a little better lighting. The cameras are set up. We got the switcher.
I felt like we hit some great energy,
Oh, great energy. Yeah.
We were just halfway through. And now I'm starting to finish my beer and starting to be like, okay.
So good. I definitely slurred a bit earlier.
There's interesting things I have to say. And there's, I'm deep. I got lots of things.
Yeah.
I'm good.
I mean, if anything, like we're going to get a lot of hits on the negative comments about my guitar playing, or someone's going to be like chewing us out. And like I said, any press is good press, because we want to, you can have people dislike the video, but it's still engagement.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and the beautiful thing is this podcast is 2 hours and 15 minutes. We could edit this thing down to a nice tight 25 minutes.
I don't know who you're talking about, who's going to edit that, but I'm in the market.
I got Final Cut.
Oh, yeah?
I got Final Cut.
You want to learn how to edit?
I know how to edit.
I mean, I know you know how to edit, but do you want to?
I can put it in there and I can move things around and done. That's all it takes, right? There's no nuance.
Blood, sweat, and tears. Yeah. No, I mean, like for something like this, it's not really nuanced. It's just you cut back and forth. That's why I can do it live right here.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what people say. If they like the live switch. I think it's just, I feel like it might be distracting, and next week I might just do ISOs. But what the cool thing is about this, Luke, and this is for you and I, is that you're going to export that audio. This is going to be done.
Yep.
And it's one clip to sync, maybe two, but depending on how many times we cut, but it's not. And it's already done. I don't have to run any AI or anything. It's just done. So,
well, maybe we should wrap up the podcast, pop it on there. And the only thing where I'm going to start overthinking this whole thing is with the audio. If I'm probably going to be interested in tweaking the music parts of it and making it a custom EQ, and maybe if it sounds good enough and it wasn't that good of a performance anyway, never mind. But I would love to, if we're going to be playing music in here, let's get it sounding really fucking good.
That'd be cool.
With the good vocals.
Yeah, I mean, damn, this mic sounds great for vocals. I mean, it's the mic that Michael Jackson recorded Thriller on. Who else recorded on these mics?
No, like a small thing. When I was singing that last song, I felt like I heard my voice distorting because I was singing kind of loud, louder than I talk, and I was hearing it distort. So that's something, do I load up a different preset when we're playing music and singing, or do we just
Hell yeah. Get me some reverb, man.
Yeah.
I need that. I ain't got them.
I need to up my my UA game for the reverb. I am maxed out with these gorgeous preamps.
Oh man.
And yeah, I need to get some more of those DSPs.
You know what that means. I got to reach out to an old friend.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Luke. Well, thanks for holding me accountable with this adventure of starting a podcast and keeping it going.
Likewise, man.
It's fun, dude.
Thank you for spending your Saturday night hanging out with me and talking shit and getting equipment set up. And I love this kind of stuff. So this is fun. This is awesome.
Yeah. All right. Well, see you next week.